Okay, here we are. This is the seventh sign in the book of John, and it's the raising of Lazarus. Lazarus coming back to life. It's in John chapter 11, so I'm just going to read the last part of that story. Most of John chapter 11 is about this raising up of this dead man, but we're just going to read the last part of the story. Here, starting in verse 38, it says, "So Jesus, again being deeply moved within, came to the tomb. Now it was a cave, and a stone was lying against it. Jesus said, 'Remove the stone.' Martha, the sister of the deceased, said to him, 'Lord, by this time there will be a stench, for he has been dead 4 days.' And Jesus said to her, 'Did I not say to you that if you believe, you will see the glory of God?' So they removed the stone. Then Jesus raised his eyes and said, 'Father, I thank you that you have heard me. I knew that you always hear me, but because of the people standing around, I said it, so that they may believe that you sent me.' When he had said these things, he cried out with a loud voice, 'Lazarus, come forth.' The man who had died came forth, bound hand and foot with wrappings, and his face was wrapped around with a cloth. And Jesus said to them, 'Unbind him and let him go.' Therefore many of the Jews who came to Mary and saw what he had done believed in him. But some of them went to the Pharisees and told them the things which Jesus had done." And so that's John chapter 11, verses 38 through 46. And we're just going to look at a few things about this raising of the dead man. This is the last sign that we're going to see, with the exception, obviously, of Jesus coming back from the dead. And you almost get this idea. You see, John has 21 chapters in it. And so you almost get this impression that Jesus, about halfway through the book of John, John is cataloging this situation with Jesus, almost as if Jesus is saying, all right, so here's the last thing I'm going to do. And this last thing I'm going to do is going to remind you of what happens here in the future. It's a little bit of foreshadowing. It's a little bit of drama. It's a little bit of look at the similarities between what I'm doing right now and what I'm about to do, so that you'll know that this was me. All of this I'm going to brag on the Father with. And so there's a few things that we want to kind of point out. First of all, we want to recognize what this teaches us about Jesus. It does teach us that he can raise from the dead, right? He can bring life out of what is dead. That's amazing right there. And we've got this question. Why is Jesus so deeply moved? If we look at verse 38, it says, "So Jesus, again being deeply moved within, came to the tomb. Now it was a cave." And a couple of times, I mean, back there in 35, it's the verse that every youth wants to memorize. 11:35 says, "Jesus wept," right? We love memorizing that verse. It's a great verse to memorize. But we see him a couple of times throughout this story where he's really, his heart hurts. And he's looking at us, and we're weeping, and we're crying, and Martha and Mary are crying, and the family, the people around, the Jews that are around have gathered around for this funeral. They're all moved, and Jesus is moved as well. Now, it's an interesting thing because, of course, Jesus knows what he's about to do. He knows the power of God. He knows that there is a man who is about to be raised up from the dead. In fact, he's done that before. He's going to do that again. He's going to do that with himself, right? He does that. He raises people from the dead all of the time. And so here what we see is Jesus, he is ready to do something miraculous in this place. He's got that in mind. He knows the power that he has, yet still he weeps. Why does he weep? Why is he deeply moved? Why is he hurt? Why is he hurting? On behalf of the people of God. On behalf of the people that are around him. People that will actually turn around in just a little bit and say, we've got to find a way to kill this guy. Right? Those people, he's deeply moved around these people. Why is that? That's a question that it would be great to wrestle with. And it would be great to kind of look through. One of the things we talked about is that he is a relator to mankind. He sees us moved, and that hurts him. That moves him as well. That's a good father right there. But also, it lets us know that he is not afraid to mourn. He is not afraid to have feelings. And that's something that is a lesson for us as well. Okay, so that's a really important thing. Jesus said in verse 39, "Remove the stone." Martha, the sister of the deceased, said to him, Lord, by this time there will be a stench, for he has been dead for 4 days. Okay, so Martha, ever the practical one, is going to look and she's going to say, here's why this can't happen. But Jesus is going to answer her. He's going to answer her in a very unique way. He's going to say, didn't I tell you that if you believe, you will see the glory of God? All right, so there's a line in the sand right there. And he puts that same line in the sand for all of us as well. Listen, it's one thing to believe. It's another thing to act on that belief, right? And that's what he's inviting Martha to do. He says, it's time for us to move this stone away. There's going to be something miraculous that's about to happen. But Martha's going to come up and say, wait a second, my faith isn't ready for that. And he's going to say, didn't I say? Didn't I already tell you? Right? So in other words, Martha has the chance to look back and say, do I believe God's word or not? What am I going to do with my belief? What am I going to do with God's word? And she chooses to step back, which is hard for Martha. You know, if you know the story of Martha and Mary, Martha is always the practical one. She's always thinking along those lines. She's in control. And she has to let somebody else be in control. She has to let God be in control of her life. Amazing, amazing thing that she steps back here. So, did I not say to you that if you believe, you will see the glory of God? So she's ready to see the glory of God. And that is true for us as well. But verse 41 says they remove the stone. And then after they remove the stone, something amazing happens. Jesus prays. And when Jesus prays, look at the way that he prays. He doesn't pray that Lazarus would come back from the dead. He doesn't pray that God would hear him. He prays this confident prayer, and he prays it to God, and he prays it on behalf of the people around him. Look what he says. Verse 41. So they removed the stone, and then Jesus raised his eyes and said, Father, I thank you that you have heard me. That's the first aspect, right? First aspect of that prayer. I thank you that you have heard me. You already know what I need. You already know what I want. You already know why I'm moved. You already know why I'm here in this place. I thank you that you have heard me. I knew that you always hear me, so that's confidence right there. I already know this. I already know that you can hear what I'm thinking. I already know that we are connected. I already know that you have me in your mind, me in your heart, me, that you're concerned with me. I already know that. But he says, I knew that you always hear me, but because of the people standing around, I prayed this prayer, so that they can believe that you sent me. In other words, here's a prayer that's not asking for Lazarus to come forth. This is a prayer simply acknowledging the fact that God is God. And we could learn something from that prayer, right? What Jesus is saying is, I know already that you're at work. What would I have to do to convince the people that are around me? And maybe I would ask that same question of God. What do I have to do, God? How do I have to pray to you in order for people around me to recognize that you are powerful, not me, that you are at work, not my prayers, that you are king? I don't sit on that throne. Jesus is saying, I'm not sitting on that throne right now. I'm letting you do all of the work so that later on, when I myself die, Jesus says, when I myself die and come back from the dead, they will recognize who is at work. God is at work. Because of the people standing around it, I said it, so that they may believe that you sent me. And I wonder as well, what do I do to help people see that God is at work? Okay, that's the prayer, and that's the main focus of this particular text. And we also want to be thinking as we finish, what exactly is Jesus doing with these signs? So this is the last sign that we see. There are 7 signs in the Gospel of John. This is the last sign that we see. What is he doing with these signs? What is the reason for these signs? Something for you to think about. We will meet again in a couple of weeks. We'll talk about the I am statements of Jesus. So thank you so much for listening. Hope you have a wonderful day. God bless.